Great, we are all here. So what I'm going to try to do is throw one question to me, Kayla. I mean, at a time when traditional media is in dire straits, where readership and engagement is a constant challenge, you launched your own media platform. What was behind that decision? What void are you trying to fill?
Sure. Just want to first start off by saying how honored I am to be on this panel and amongst this great group of people. But to answer your question, I've been an athlete for most of my life. I've been able to really deeply understand and become familiar with the athletic landscape. And I think especially, being a sophomore in college now and kind of getting a taste for what the college athletics life is, I've come to discover that there are very few representatives of the college athlete voice. And usually that voice is designated to players who come from more high profile programs with just more access to media exposure. And I think that in itself creates a sort of hierarchy within college athletics where who you play for and the program you play for kind of equates your ability to be heard. So I think the Sideline Post kind of birthed to dismantle the notions. And to put it simply, we pride ourselves on kind of the basis that we don't care if you're the next NBA draft pick or if you're a bench warmer at a junior college. Your voice and your story is of equal magnitude and worth. And so what I've come to learn from running the Sideline Post for almost about a year now is that the younger generation, especially the college demographic, is really cognizant of the voice we have and the power it possesses, but the degree to which it's amplified is where it varies. So here at the Sideline Post, we're not introducing, our writers to a voice that they suddenly are able to discover, but we're more so helping them recognize the fact that, yes, you have a voice, and not only do you have a voice, but that voice matters and your story is worth sharing. So it's been a very valuable and fulfilling experience, to say the least.
And who knows, we may have somebody watching today that gets really excited about monetizing this product for you. So now I'll throw some questions out that hopefully we can get a nice back and forth between everyone on the panel. Andrea, Jamil, how do you and your friends access, consume, and discuss media? I'd love to hear a bit about what you define as news. What do you read? Do you listen to? Do you pay for anything? That's the question I always want to know from young people too. Do you see news as something that has a value that is worth your money in the same way, or do you believe that it should just be coming to you for free?
Right. Well, to first kind of answer your question about how I think a majority of, the younger generation college demographic consumes media, I would have to go with the pretty generic answer of social media. I think especially within these past few turbulent months with the rise of several social injustice issues, the election, all with the underlying issues of the pandemic, there were just a lot of things we couldn't do. So a lot of people took to social media as a form of protest or showcasing their activism, just because we couldn't go outside and normally kind of showcase that publicly and visibly. So I think social media, in the sense of, these past few months, had become more prevalent than ever, in the sense that it's maybe no longer just talking about Instagram specifically, just showcasing your hobbies, showcasing what you're eating or who you're with, but more so an extension of yourself and what you believe in and your viewpoints. And so I think within these past few months, a lot of people have just been very outspoken about their beliefs and their viewpoints, political affiliations, almost to the point where I feel like there was a lot of pressure to fall in line and do the same, because if you didn't, it seemed as if you were indifferent to all these issues. And I think kind of tricky thing during this whole time was that silence in some manner equated to indifference. And that's hard because you don't really know the intentions of someone's silence, whether that's, intentional and, at risk of losing good allies just because someone isn't as loud or as engaged as, what they should be. But in terms of your other question regarding if we do pay for news, I actually took a poll on my Instagram last night, more to the power of social media, if, people are willing to pay for news. And a majority of people said that they're not. I think it's more so due to, the fact that there are just so many free resources at our fingertips. And second, we're college students. We need any penny we can get, truthfully. But I think a good practice I've been trying to be cognizant of while I'm searching for news is looking for unbiased sources where I feel like the tone of these articles are more to educate me rather than persuade me to believe this or that. But I think there is a larger problem in that a lot of publications are putting paywalls to their content, and the fact that we're discouraged from, seeking publications that we might want to align with and hear more from, but are kind of hindered from that from a financial standpoint. And that kind of like brings me to a larger question, as if, news is even a commodity, because at the end of the day, news is a service, to inform us, just as, you'd go to a restaurant to pay for food and the service is for them to give you that. But with news trying to inform us, should there be a price to wanting to be informed? And I think that, just speaks to a larger question that I open up to any of the panelists, in the sense that should there be a price for just wanting to know more? And that opens up larger conversations of digital equity and so on and so forth. But just something I've been thinking about, with the track of this, dialogue and conversation.
That brings me to a question that I would love to hear from all of you about how you go about seeking out content that challenges your beliefs and assumptions, maybe that rattles you to the core, that is upsetting in different ways, that may be the antithesis of mainstream. And what's the value in that? Because there are many who would then say, we're just endorsing the move toward entire opinion-based coverage, as opposed to the lines that were very clearly drawn when Andrea started, when I started, when Jamil started. The lines have been blurred, and they're going to continue to be blurred. But how and where do you go, and how often do you search out this kind of content that rattles you and that makes you shake your head, but that ultimately is hopefully informative in how you approach the work that you do?
I can speak a little bit about the Sideline Post and how we've encouraged ourselves to kind of put out content that might challenge some other people, especially fellow college athletes, to think about their own personal experiences, or how, like Dean Jackson said, to really be cognizant of what we take for granted of in our privilege and different experiences. I think the beauty of sports, especially as it's evolved, is that it is a very diverse environment as opposed to a lot of different settings. But I think as a young person, you kind of are at times really oblivious that not everyone experiences the same thing you are. And so I also think that because we're young people, we also think other young people aren't, going through the same kind of trials and tribulations that you might experience as an adult, when that is really not true. For the Sideline Post, we put out several articles about, college athletes already having dealt with racism within their sports and within their lives. And I think that challenges readers, especially just this demographic, that, things are happening at a young age, and we need to be cognizant of not only that they're happening, but the privilege that we hold, that we don't have to experience these things sometimes, but to be aware and to be empathetic, I think, is really what is needed right now, especially for a younger demographic, to kind of step outside of yourself and be aware of what's happening. So I think the Sideline Post has really done our best to put out those kinds of articles to challenge others to think about their own experiences and their own lives.
So Kayla, as we get closer to the end of this, I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't ask, does having this conversation, does doing the work on that you're doing at the Sideline Post, make you think that you might want to pursue a life and a career in journalism? It's the weight of the world on the shoulders, obviously, but it is clear that we need a generation, a diverse and brilliant and engaged generation, to want to take this up on behalf of the democracy, on behalf of our country. And I honestly don't know if it's a remotely attractive career option nowadays for an energetic college student like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, as context, my starting of the Sideline Post was in no way formed or influenced because I wanted to further myself and put, having a journalism experience on my resume. It was born out of a pure passion to kind of give a voice to a demographic I thought needed more exposure. And it still will be the, founding, mission for the Sideline Post. But, getting to be a part of this conversation, one, but also kind of being a part of the process of allowing such a diverse population of people to share their stories and creating even more diversity in the type of college athlete voice that is heard. It's definitely sparked my interest. I'm in the business school here, so I think it'd be a great opportunity to kind of pair an interest in journalism, but also kind of thinking about how business models in that regard can intersect. I think would be a cool opportunity. But yeah, it's definitely sparked my interest a lot more.
Well, and I'm curious, especially for Jamil and David, want to share as well?
And if I may add, as much as I kind of represent like the younger generation, I think just being on this panel really opens my eyes to just the leaders that we already have in place through everyone here. I think, especially within the media, there can be like, obviously, as this conversation has described, just a lot of bad things where you think you can't trust, don't know what to trust. But it's nice to have the reassurance that there are leaders like you all here on this panel that are very intentional about doing good work and making sure that these conversations arise and that we're being truthful in that. So as much as we're the ones who should be on the horizon getting ready for the future, you guys make us hopeful. So I appreciate from my perspective as well.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone for